Okay, let's return to the official Indiana Jones Expanded Adventures. With this series, very short lived. Untold Adventures, it was supposed to be a YA book series about Indiana Jones. Now, we had one in the 90s, a young adult series focused on young Indiana Jones. There's a very big difference here. Because that series, it ran for like over 15 books or something. It was very long and very good. I would highly recommend that. But this series is focused on grown up Indiana Jones during World War II, which is something very special. But it is written in YA style, which just means it's written in simpler English, for younger readers. And Untold Adventures, as this series was called, both books were released in May 2009. And that was it, because I can only assume these books didn't sell whatsoever. Which is a shame, because what also came out, I think in 2008 actually, Steve Perry's regular novel, Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead, all of these books, there was this attempt of a relaunch of the Indiana Jones IP, with Crystal Skull, obviously. And it just didn't work out at all, because people just don't give a shit about Indiana Jones, really. That's why it's such a fucking weird franchise, in all honesty. It's so popular, but no one is reading the books. Okay, there's me, and I'm sure there are some people. But in the grand scheme of things, that market is so incredibly small that the publishers and the people in Lucasfilm just decided this is not worth it. That's why we haven't gotten any official comics or novels since then. I'm surprised we got Great Circle, which is apparently a successful game now. Which is nice, I guess, we have something. But what's also interesting, and I don't think I brought this up when I first reviewed Steve Perry's Army of the Dead, these novels make an attempt to go full Star Wars Expanded Universe, in the sense that they reference the other material, which wasn't always the case, like the 12 Bantam novels from the 90s. Rob McGregor had his stuff, Martin Caidin did his little duology, which did reference McGregor's work, in an attempt to show this is this is going on, this is a linear timeline, whatever. And then Max McCoy just did his own thing and didn't reference anything. And then Wolfgang Holbein is also just completely his own stuff. And the thing is, at most they would reference, well, Holbein at least would slightly reference the movies, because most of his books take place after the movie trilogy. The other books were all prequels, so they couldn't do that. But they don't really reference each other that much, or the games or comics, God forbid. But Steve Perry's novel, Army of the Dead, and this duology, these two YA books of the Untold Adventure series, they did that. Perry's book referenced the fucking Emperor's Tomb video game. And this one not only references stuff, this book prominently features one character who is called Reginald Brooksbank, and he's an original character from an old Find Your Fate, Choose Your Own Adventure Indiana Jones book, which is a bizarre piece of continuity. And that's just something I found very interesting. And I wasted enough time. Let's talk about this book. What is this? So, Indiana Jones and the Pyramid of the Sorcerer was written by Ryder Wyntham. I'm familiar with his work in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. He's a decent author, and this was a decent, fun read. And the story is very simple, and I'm not gonna go too much into detail. Indiana Jones, it's 1941, and he gets recruited by Colonel Musgrove, who is one of the guys we see in Raiders of the Lost Ark, who talks with Indy about the Ark and the Nazis going after it. And Indy eventually starts serving the US military that way, because Musgrove sends him to find the Hall of Records, which has recordings of everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen. And during this adventure, Indy is teaming up with a pilot woman called Bert Brodowski, and that's a fun dynamic going on there. And overall, the story is good. Obviously, the pacing is good because it's a YA book. There isn't much wasted time at all. And I really enjoyed this book. I think this is a fun book for younger readers. It should also be noted that this is indeed a standalone book, which means you can just read it and have a fun little adventure. But the story kind of gets continued in the sense that Indy is still working for Musgrove, and the female character, returns, which is interesting, in the next book. But if you only want to read this one for whatever reason, you can. I would definitely recommend Indiana Jones and the Pyramid of the Sorcerer, and next time I want to talk about the final one in this series. Sadly and annoyingly, it's the final one, and that's what I'm going to talk about mostly in the next video on that. With Indiana Jones and the Mystery of Mount Sinai.